this morning about the leadership of God. I want to speak to you about the leadership of God that is revealed in Jesus, the shepherd who is good. A number of my clergy colleagues via Facebook have communicated they are so dreading this Sunday's gospel text about Jesus the Good Shepherd, because how many times could one possibly preach about the countryside image of a shepherd taking care of poor, stupid sheep? And I have realized that that is absolutely not what the Scriptures are speaking about when Jesus says, I am the shepherd who is good. The sense of the shepherd is found throughout the Old Testament, and it is referring to the political leaders of the Jewish people. And very often throughout the writings of the prophets, you have the prophets speaking in the face of political power, and they themselves call those leaders the shepherds who are bad. Hear these words from the 34th chapter of the prophet Ezekiel. The weak you have not strengthened, the sick you have not healed, the injured you have not bound up, the strayed you have not brought back, the lost you have not sought, and with force and harshness you have ruled them. So they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for all the wild beasts. My sheep were scattered. They wandered all over the mountains and on every hill. My sheep were scattered all over the face of the earth, with none to search or seek for them. Hear these words from Zechariah. Those who buy them slaughter them and go unpunished, and those who sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, I've become rich, and their own shepherds have no pity on them. Hear these words from the prophet Jeremiah. Return, O faithless children, declares the Lord, for I am your master. I will take you, one from a city and two from a family, and I will bring you to Zion. And I will give you shepherds after my own heart, who will feed you with knowledge and understanding. The leadership of God is not like those of the bad shepherds. God himself reveals his leadership as entirely good. Hear these words from Isaiah. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain. Lift up your voice, do not be afraid, and say to the towns of Judah, Here is your God. See, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and he rules with a mighty arm. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. So when Jesus is speaking of himself as the good shepherd, the shepherd who is good, he is in contrast to those who would eat people alive. But even as Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, he reveals an uneasy relationship between that other powerful descriptor, Messiah. For in Jewish thought, the Jews themselves knew that if they were going to see the Messiah coming through the veil of history, that Messiah was indeed going to be a political leader for the Jewish people. That is how the Jews tested and continue to test from century to century, millennium to millennium. Is this one the Messiah? Could this one be? For the Messiah, the anointed one, in Greek, Christos, the one we call Christ. In Judaism, the Messiah was one who would gather up the Jewish people who were scattered all around the world and bring them back to the land of promise. The Jewish Messiah would inspire the Jews to more passionately keep to the Jewish religious identity and following the laws of Moses. The Jewish Messiah would also overturn all of the oppressors of the Jewish people, set them free. You can see there is an uneasy relationship between the shepherd who is good and the Messiah who is a political leader. Because frankly, anyone who enters into politics must make compromises, must rub elbows with those who are rich and powerful and privileged. It is hard to be good, completely, unequivocally good in the realm of politics. So we look at Jesus, the shepherd who is good, and we realize that something is going on here that is not of this world. Where does the leadership of God take us? Where does the good shepherd lead us, and why? Well, where is it but through death into new life? Through the powers of this world and the politics of this world into the realm of God's kingdom. That is where the shepherd who is good leads his sheep. We followed that journey in our yearly remembrance of Holy Week and the Triduum and Easter morning. We have watched as Jesus has moved forward obediently through his ministry, and his life is swallowed up by the politics and powers of this world, and he lets it happen. He lets it happen so that God may be victorious in the end. All of the evil, all of the wickedness, all of the corruption of humanity's politics crush Jesus, yet he lives. So if we are to follow the leadership of God known through Jesus, we are not following the leadership of a shepherd who is bad, but a shepherd who is good and whose goodness lasted to the bitter end and beyond the empty tomb. Does that kind of leadership, does following that kind of leader worry you? I suppose it should. It worries me often. Because when we look at the leadership of Jesus, so unlike the leadership of any politicians or any powers of this world, when we look at his leadership, we have to ask ourselves, do we ever think that following him would be easy? And did we ever think that following him and serving him would gain the approval of the world's powers? Rest with that question for a minute, and I'm going to read to you an article that I ran across this week by an Episcopal priest by the name of Tom Eric. He wrote an article that was called "What Struggling Congregations Need to Do to Revive Their Churches." So I share it with you so that we can have a sense of the power of Christ's leadership with us. Tom Eric writes, "The truth is this: there is too much shallowness and not enough depth. More and more members sense something is missing. Conviction, perhaps, a sense that what they do here has meaning and purpose beyond institutional survival, a burning zeal to transform their own lives and to make a difference in the world. They spend religion time inside a bubble. It's a wonderful bubble in many ways, but the world is so much larger, and the needs of their lives and other lives are so much deeper than Sunday worship. Rather than devote more years to addressing institutional issues, such churches need to move on to the deeper and more challenging issue of being a faith community in a troubled world. If all they do is rearrange the deck chairs one more time, they will die. Quite frankly, they will deserve it. People are hungry for faith. They are hungry for conviction that is not mean-spirited or triumphalist. They are hungry for healthy families, healthy workplaces, healthy neighborhoods. They know that the darkness is fighting them tooth and nail. They need transformation of life, not pleasant Sunday worship experiences, if they are to stand up to the darkness. Why is it that the shepherd who is good leads us? He leads us to transform our lives. Right at the very core of our being. Jesus, the shepherd who is good, who remains good from death into resurrection, is the one who leads you and me to transform us. Now, you may be wondering how this could possibly apply to this little church. You all know that via some messages that I've sent out in the last 2 weeks, our congregation and our sister congregation is now facing some significant anger from our neighbors, some who are upset at the witness that we have to our homeless folks. Our neighbors, homeless. Our neighbors unloved, our neighbors hungry, those are our neighbors and we care for them. But at the same time, that has earned, well, the anger and the wrath and the obsession of some who would not want them here. And I realize that as we go forward in the next several weeks and months, we will have to renew a sense of conviction about why we do what we do. That's crucial. If we do not want to do this any further, then we might as well just drop it and be honest. But if our hearts convict us, then we must go forward with the work. And right now, there are a few people who can be counted on to do this work, and I know that there are many who have good intentions but perhaps can't fit it into their schedules. I invite every person to assess how you can help with this ministry. If you want depth, it's going to be there. If you want depth, and the kind of conviction that Tom Eric speaks about under the leadership of God, then you'll find it out of this place. When I think about the people that we serve, the homeless folks who have made Logan Square their neighborhood against all odds, I realize that there are people here who face struggles you and I may not be able to imagine. I can assure you that every person whom we serve and care about through the Saturday lunch program, through the clothing closet ministry, through the open arms ministry during the week, every one of those people in some ways has been repeatedly shunned by family members, has repeatedly been shunned and manhandled by police, has struggled with real demons of mental health and addiction and substance abuse. People, I wouldn't want their stories, I really wouldn't. But they walk this neighborhood, and they walk our alleys, digging through trash so they can collect some cans to turn them in for a few cents. And yes, there are people who pass out on the sidewalks. There are those who have rage episodes when we least want them. They are broken. They are truly lost sheep in so many ways. And I assure you they have God's unconditional favor and love. If you and I are to follow the leadership of God, we must reveal that unconditional favor and love as well. We'll explore that